Canadian company claims to offer DNA tests proving Native American heredity but was caught granting aboriginal status to dogs. A Canadian company which claims to conduct DNA testing that proves indigenous ancestry is suspected of fraudulently manufacturing results after it failed to distinguish a dog's genetic material from those of humans. Viaguard Accu-Metrics, a genetic testing company from Toronto, has reportedly been confirming indigenous ancestry for non-Indians so that they can use their status to receive tax and other financial benefits. The alleged scam was exposed by the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. Louis Cote, a resident of Mascouche, Quebec, was working with the Confederation of Aboriginal People of Canada, CAPC, an organization that represents Indigenous Canadians who do not live on recognized reserves. The group, however, is not recognized by the Assembly of First Nations or the Canadian government. The Assembly of First Nations is a Canadian advocacy organization that represents Indigenous communities throughout the country. Canada's government officially recognizes citizens with Aboriginal ancestry by granting them Indian status. This status makes them eligible for tax benefits as well as subsidized health care, housing, and education. Both CAPC and Viaguard Accu-Metrics apparently saw an opportunity to make money off of people's supposed eligibility for Indian status, CBC is reporting. Cote was tasked by CAPC to collect DNA samples of those who believed that they were partly Aboriginal. For $250, CAPC would arrange a DNA test for a prospective member. The test would be conducted by Viaguard. If the test confirmed indigenous ancestry, CAPC would charge an additional $80 for a membership card. This card would then be used by newly minted Aboriginals to claim benefits in the marketplace, though this would be illegal since the Canadian government doesn't recognize CAPC cards as legally binding documents. Since CAPC cards bear a resemblance to official Canadian government IDs given to those with Indian status, they often receive benefits even though they are not legally entitled to them. Cote began to get suspicious. "I heard some things that were not straight with these tests," he said. "I thought it was a joke," Cote said. "The company is fooling people. The tests are no good." So he decided to ask for a DNA test, only this time he would submit 2 samples, one of his, and one from his girlfriend's Chihuahua, Snoopy. When Cote received the results, he found that both he and Snoopy have indigenous ancestry. 12% Abenaki and 8% Mohawk. "I don't feel very good for the people who paid for these tests," Cote said. "They may have paid for nothing. While CAPC members are not legally entitled to tax exemptions, they take advantage of them anyway. Merchants don't know the laws, so they will take anything presented to them," said Daniel Brabant, a former CAPC member from Quebec who says he has witnessed people exploiting the scam. "I know somebody who bought over $250,000 to do some renovations and saved over $35,000 in taxes," he said. Brabant began to suspect that CAPC was handing out memberships to people who were only interested in the economic benefits. "That's the message, you're Indian so you get the same right as the guy that lives on the reserve. You can go fishing, you can go hunting anytime you want, you can use the CAPC membership card for tax purposes, and that's all there is to it." So Brabant also ordered a DNA test through the same Toronto lab approved by CAPC. For one test, he received 2 separate results. One test said he had 19% Aboriginal ancestry. 5 weeks later, he received another notice saying that it was 30.4%. Brabant said that he then heard about Cote's experiment with his dog. So he sent in a DNA sample from Molly, his French poodle. The lab found that Molly was 5% indigenous, 2% Ojibwe, 2% Saulteaux, and 1% Mississauga. "There has got to be something wrong there, a dog that's got indigenous heritage?" Brabant said. CBC reported that it conducted its own experiment. It ordered testing kits for 3 of its employees, 2 of whom were born in India and 1 who was born in Russia. CBC used both the Toronto lab preferred by CAPC as well